Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about some of the fears and concerns that you may have about moving to Thailand. So this is a very long list and we're going to have to go at a very good pace. So let's jump right in. The first one being language barrier. So a lot of you may be a little worried about moving to a country where you know the language not at all. Meaning, how are you going to function on a daily basis if you don't know the language? Well, if you're moving somewhere in like one of the big cities or one of the big areas here in Thailand, you should be fine. A lot of Thais here do speak English, especially at the places that you would want to go. You know, in most of the bigger restaurants, they're going to have things in English and in Thai. And in a lot of the stores, everything else, you should do okay. Yes, you're going to run into some people who don't speak any English whatsoever, but they do try, and it works for my wife and I. When we first got here, we were concerned with the same thing, but as we carried on all the tasks we need to do in our daily life, we found out that there's ways around everything, from getting gas to getting groceries. Yes, there are those awkward times where you feel like you don't know what they're saying and they don't know what you're saying, but you will learn and grow from it. It's one of those things that you just got to get used to moving here, but it does get better. It just takes time. Now let's talk about culture shock. Shouldn't be a problem if you're used to traveling all the time, but let's say you're not used to traveling anywhere and you're coming from, let's say, Europe, Australia, or the United States. Yeah, moving here, if you haven't been on this side of the world, will be a culture shock to you. I would suggest that you would come over here, spend some time here on vacation, make sure this is the place that you want to be and live, and make sure this is a place you feel like you could function. But yes, everything for the most part is going to be different than what you're used to. You will get used to it, but it does take time. When you first move here, you're going to feel awkward, scared, you don't belong here, I made a mistake. All of these are common fears and concerns that you will have when you first get here, but they will subside as long as you can overcome them. I've got videos I'll put links to below that talk about how to cope with that missing everyone and everything else when you first get here, because you don't know anybody. Anyway, just know that there is a culture shock if you're not used to something like this, but it will vanish over time. Finding employment. Now, it can be hard to find employment as a foreigner here in Thailand. One of the biggest employers that I can see for foreigners here is people who are teachers, especially teaching the English language. Other than that, a lot of jobs are reserved only for Thais. They're not going to give it to foreigners. And keep this in mind, that you would be making a Thai wage in Thailand. That may work for you, but what I've always told people that they should really start working on is figuring out a way to work remote, making a living from the country that you came from. In other words, let's say you're from Europe. If you have a job with a company in Europe, but you're living here in Thailand, when they pay you, that money's going to go a lot further here in Thailand because you're making the wage that you would have back in your home country, versus getting paid by a Thai company here in Thailand that is going to pay you less than what you're used to. So just keep that in mind. Visa regulations, always a concern. It's a concern for most of the expats that I know, because the visa situation here is not that easy. It's not like you go in, sign up for a 5-year visa, and hey, you're good for 5 years. We wish it was like that. Not at all. So there's different visas for different situations. If you're 50 and older, you may qualify for a retirement visa. You've got the education visa. All these different visas that they have. I would say to research that thoroughly. We have done some videos on this subject. I'll put a link down in the description. Make sure you check them out, because we talk with the visa experts, and maybe that will put you on the path for the correct visa for your certain situation. Healthcare concerns. Well, don't let that be a concern. Healthcare here in Thailand is very good. I did a video on all this in the past, so it's something I have researched. So the healthcare is good and it's fairly affordable. It really depends on which hospital you go to. The fancier ones are going to cost more. The non-fancier ones will cost less. So you can go and get things done here in Thailand a lot easier. I'm going to use America as the example since that's where we're from. You know how in the United States, if you're an American, that if you need to go to a specialist, you got to have a referral from your general practitioner and such. You don't need that here. If you need to go see a dermatologist, go and see a dermatologist. You need an MRI, you just go a place that does MRIs and just get an MRI done. You can just have one done for the fun of it if you want. But the healthcare here is very good. Don't let that stop you. Safety and security. Thailand is a very safe place. I mean, if you're comparing it to the rest of the world, as a matter of fact, my wife and I feel safer here in Thailand than we did in the United States. Now that's saying something. So yes, it's very safe here. You just don't need to be stupid. And what I mean by being stupid, if you're gonna be halfway drunk, wearing gold necklaces, a Rolex watch, at 3 a.m. in a bar scene, in a back alley, you're just asking for it. I don't care what country you're in. So anyway, be smart. And if you are smart, you should do fine here. The climate here, that's a concern for you. Yes, it is hot here. Yes, you will get used to it. My wife and I have been here for 2 years. When we first got here, we were sweating all the time, every day, thought we were going to die. Over time, we started getting used to it. This is one of the hottest days. It's getting up to, well, it's very, very hot, like 40 degrees Celsius. We're talking, it can get up to 110 Fahrenheit, just hot temperatures. And I'm not even sweating right now, getting very used to it. So things do get better for you, and they do have different times of year that are cooler than others. So just know that. It will take some getting used to depending on where you're coming from. So climate, yes, it is going to be different, but over time, you'll be fine. Cost of living concerns. Well, don't have those concerns. It's probably why a lot of you are even looking at Thailand to begin with. Thailand has one of the lowest cost of livings. Just keep this in mind, that in Thailand, okay, overall, it's got a low cost of living, yes. But in certain areas of Thailand, have lower or higher cost of livings within Thailand. In other words, if you go up north, where I'm at, Chiang Mai, is typically a lower cost of living than, let's say, Bangkok or Koh Samui or Pattaya. So keep that in mind. You may want to research what part of Thailand is cheaper if you're trying to stretch out your budget. Now let's talk about education options for your children. So let's say you're moving here from a Western country. Do they have English speaking schools here? Or if you're coming from China, do they have Chinese speaking schools here? Absolutely. Now I'm only going to speak for Chiang Mai, where I live right now. There are plenty of schools around here, international schools. There's Chinese based ones, there's English based ones, there's German based ones. I could go on and on. So research that before you come over here. But there are a lot of families that I know, and their kids are adapting real well to the schools. I haven't heard any complaints. So it looks like it works real well here. So don't let that be too much of a concern for you. Loneliness and homesickness being a concern. You probably will be homesick. So I did a video about this, about how to handle the homesick part. So in a nutshell, make sure that you constantly keep in contact with your friends and relatives back home, because unfortunately, at least this happens to us and most of the expats we know, once you move over here, your good friends kind of like you're out of sight, out of mind. Unfortunately, that could happen. Hopefully not to you. But you want to keep yourself in front of them at all times, and you do want to start working on your new life here in Thailand. You need to get out and make some more friends, and it's something you're going to have to work for. It's not going to fall in your lap. You got to get out of your house and get out there and meet people. Transportation. That's definitely a concern. When you're here for the first 2 or 3 weeks, I would say, look, go ahead and take the public transportation before you commit to buying a motorcycle or a car. So figure out the roads, figure out the driving. If you're coming from the United States, they don't drive on the right-hand side of the road, they drive on the left, and the steering wheel's on the opposite side of the car than you're used to. If you're coming from England, hey, it's just like it is in England. So you should do even better. But driving here is something that you're going to have to get used to. The transportation system is something that you're going to have to get used to here. The infrastructure in Bangkok is well defined. They got buses, they got taxis, they got trains, they got everything. If you come up here to Chiang Mai, where I'm at, it's not as structured as it is in Bangkok, let's just put it that way. So anyway, if that's a concern of yours, research the area that you're going to move to. Now, if you're concerned about air pollution because you've heard about the air quality problem certain times of year here in Thailand, Well, it's a valid concern, and that usually the worst of it's going to be in March and April, and that is when the smoky season. So it's not necessarily like emissions and stuff like that that's in the air that you're breathing. What it is, it's crops and things that are on fire. So it's basically forest fires that you're seeing. You're seeing the smoke rise up in the air from all the surrounding countries and Thailand, and that is the air that you're breathing in. Yes, it's not a fun time to be here. Yes, it is a little bit miserable. Maybe use that as the time that you want to go back home and visit your relatives in your home country, or maybe go down to one of the islands here in Thailand where the air is a little bit better. Traffic congestion. Yes, if you're in one of the bigger cities, that may be a problem for you. Yes, the traffic really is very bad. Now, I guess it depends on what you're used to. From the United States, I came from a place called South Carolina, lived out in the country. I mean, we didn't even have a red light. So, of course, for me here in Chiang Mai, it's a lot of traffic. But I mean, if you're coming from New York City or LA or something like that, you may be used to it. It may actually even be better traffic-wise than what you're used to. But just know that there is a lot of traffic, and yes, you can move away from the city and get away from the traffic. So don't let that stop you from coming here. Adjusting to the food here in Thailand. Okay, don't let that stop you from coming here. There's plenty of Western food. There's plenty of Italian food, Mexican food, you fill in the blank, American food, fish and chips if you're from the UK, all that stuff's here. They're all catering to expats. So yeah, you're gonna be able to find the food that you're used to. It's gonna cost a little bit more than Thai food, obviously. So what my wife and I try to do is we try to have a good balance between Thai cuisine and Western cuisine. It just all depends on the day and what we're in the mood for. But if you're saying, I don't wanna eat Thai food, it's so spicy, blah, well, then don't eat Thai food. They got plenty of other things, and not to mention, you can always go to the grocery store, cook your own food. Now let's talk more about the techie side of Thailand. Well, what about, internet speeds and technology? Man, they love technology here. My internet service for my house is better here than it was in the United States. So that stuff's fantastic. They got computer stores. I buy parts for computers. They got Mac, they've got PC stuff, they got all the stuff you're looking for. So that's not an issue, and they got great technicians that can repair computers. I bought hard drives here. They got everything. Don't let that be a concern whatsoever, and just know that Thailand's one of the best places on the planet for digital nomads. There's a reason for that, because Thailand is very technically savvy. Now, what if your concern's political instability and unrest? Well, I mean, that could be a concern in any country. So from time to time, that stuff could happen here. I can say there was one 2 years ago when we first moved to Thailand. And it's a Thai thing, meaning, they're protesting something with either the government or something else they don't like. Stay away from it. It's not a foreigner's concern. Let the Thais deal with the Thai issues. Stay out of it. You should do well. Now, what about wildlife and insect concerns? Yes, there are some concerns there. They're gonna have different bugs than you're used to. I had to get used to seeing scorpions. I had this complete fear of scorpions. I'm gonna tell you how I got over this too, because when we moved into our first house, we had a scorpion issue. They weren't in our house, but they were walking through our yard, on the street, and on our porch area in our first house. So what I did is I went to a cobra show here, and one of the things they brought out was a scorpion, and they allowed me to hold the scorpion in my hand. Once I did that, wasn't scared of him anymore. But the bottom of the line is there's going to be different insects here than you're used to. Can be a little intimidating, but you do get used to it and you realize to live with it. Oh, and make sure to use a good bug pest control for your home here. It's worth the money, and it does keep them away. We don't have any bug problem inside of our house. Well, I know that was a little bit long, but I hope this answered some of your questions. Remember to look down in the description and you will see videos to get into more detail on some of these subjects. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. If you feel so inclined, buy us a coffee. If this information was useful to you whatsoever, there's a link down in the description. Also down below, you're gonna see a thanks button. That's another way to contribute to the channel. If you wanna donate to us on a monthly basis, boy, would we really appreciate it. And that's called Patreon. There's a link down in the description. Now, we do have our shirts on our merchandise store, like the one I'm wearing right now. It does say Chiang Mai, so it is relevant to the area here in the north in Chiang Mai, has a map of Thailand. And anyway, those shirts are available for you to buy if you so desire. We thank you for watching. And until next time, I'm going to close this by saying Kap Kun Kap.